if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But you know, if people start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning, and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I'm Adam.
And I'm Josie.
So, let's try to keep on topic this week.
Okay.
So, a few housekeeping things before we get into the topic at hand. This podcast will be expanding. Josie, this is news to her, but she's not really involved in this. Ordinarily, on Beware of Spoilers, what I do is I do weekly episode recaps for new TV shows that are, of note. So, like right now, The Acolyte's going on, so we'll be doing weekly breakdowns of The Acolyte. Starting with whatever the next show is for Star Wars, whatever the next weekly show is that's not High Republic Adventures, that Disney Junior show, whatever the next actual show is, that will be here instead of on Beware of Spoilers. And the reason for that is we have a Star Wars branded podcast. We should use a Star Wars branded podcast for that. Similarly, book reviews and things like that based on Star Wars stuff. Like last week we did Temptation of the Force. That will be here as well. Temptation of the Force being a new book that just came out. So, yeah, that's the big, the big announcement before we get into that. So, let's start with yesterday's big news story. Because we've talked about it a lot, because we haven't had a new movie in 5 years. It'll be 5 years in December since Rise of Skywalker. So, the question on everyone's mind is, when does the next Star Wars movie come out? And we know for certain the last week of May of 2026 is the first official Star Wars movie with a release date and a title. And that is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I'm not sure is a great idea. Either way, that movie's coming out May 26th, 2026, I think. It's either 26th or 28th. It's that last week. It's the same slot that Solo had, down to the fact that part 1 of a 2-part Avengers movie comes out 3 weeks prior. So nothing bad can possibly happen here. Because as we know, Solo was a giant financial success. Nothing bad can happen here. The next movie on the slate after that is untitled Star Wars film, slated for release on December 18th, 2026. So 7 months later, there's another movie coming out without anything attached. We know in development there are 3 movies. Movie number 1 is New Jedi Order, which is, I think, the closest to production, directed by Sharmeen Chene Obaid, I think is how you pronounce her name. I could have just butchered that entirely. She directed 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel, and she's a documentary filmmaker. She's directing it. The script was originally written by Damien Lindelof, but it's being rewritten now. This will tell the story of Rey continuing the legacy of the Jedi sometime later. The next one after that we know is in production is the end of the Mandalorian era stories, telling the story of how they defeat Thrawn and finish the Empire in the Mandalorian era. Um, and that will wrap up Ahsoka and The Mandalorian and all those Disney Plus shows in a movie. That movie is being directed by Dave Filoni. Then we also have a movie that is Dawn of the Jedi, which is set 10,000 years before everything, directed by James Mangold, who did Logan, and that will be that'll be at some point in the future. After that, we don't know when that's going into production because James Mangold is also tied up at DC doing Swamp Thing. Now, the reason why this is noteworthy is yesterday, Warner Brothers put a movie on that December 18th, 2026 release date. And the movie is Untitled Denis Villeneuve co-production event movie with Legendary.
Hmm.
So the immediate thought that a lot of people have is this Dune Messiah,
Oh.
the sequel to Dune? Um, and do you have Denis Villeneuve has a lot of movies in production right now. The fact that Warner Brothers is putting what they're calling an event movie up against an upcoming Star Wars movie, do you have thoughts about that?
No.
Um, I think it doesn't speak highly of what Warner Brothers thinks of Lucasfilm.
Oh.
Um, I think that number one, I think Dune Messiah is not the bombastic science fiction event movie that Dune is. It's not as action heavy. It's a slower, more meditative work.
Okay.
Um, so I think that you can put it up against Star Wars. I think that the thing is, I think they view this as like, how many times have we had untitled Star Wars film on the release slate and then nothing come out? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are we gonna sit here and pretend that this date's actually reserved for something? It could be nothing. Why are we going to act like this date's actually reserved? That's what I think the thought process was, because there have been so many times that Disney has over the last 5 years, since COVID, you know, completely reshuffled their release slate. Like, we are 5 years out from the announcement of Mahershala Ali playing Blade, and he has played Blade once in the post-credit scene of Eternals, and he's not even on camera.
Hmm.
Like, because Disney just has had a hard time getting their shit together on a lot of these projects. And Star Wars especially, I don't know what it is about Star Wars. They have a hard time getting these things off the ground. Because,
Hmm.
like, you remember in the immediate aftermath of the acquisition, we're talking about today, we're going to talk about Rogue One, which is the first of these, but there were tons of spin offs planned. Like, do you remember the early
That's
days?
true.
Remember the early days of us doing 30-minute reviews? It felt like every week we were talking about some new Star Wars spin-off that was announced. The Boba Fett movie that Josh Trank was going to do, that eventually James Mangold was going to do, and then eventually became the Book of Boba Fett. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show that, never came, movie that never came to be, then became the TV show. The Jabba the
Oh.
Hutt one, the Yoda one. Like, there was no shortage of things that they were just announcing shit and saying this is in development. It felt like DC Studios before James Gunn took over, where it's like, oh, we're doing Gotham City Sirens, oh, we're doing a Nightwing movie with Adam McKay. It's like nothing ever materialized or got off the ground. So to an extent, if you're another studio, you got to be like, until you're putting an actual concrete movie on this date, we're just pretending nothing's there because you're not going to actually do. And even if you do put a concrete date there, we don't know you're going to keep it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
evidence is more to the contrary that you're not going to actually release a movie on this date. And I get what Disney wanted to do. They wanted to alternate Star Wars and Avatar through the 2020s. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have Avatar: The Right Way of Water, and then a few years, and then the next movie that they have in December is Avatar 3 next December. Then
Mm-hmm.
2026 would be Star Wars, 2027 would be Avatar 4, 2028 would be Star Wars, and then so on and so on. So you don't get too inundated, but you gotta have a production timeline. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like blaming Kathleen Kennedy for everything. I think that at a certain point, she does deserve a lot of the blame for what's going on at Lucasfilm.
Who's Kathleen Kennedy?
She's a studio head.
Oh, okay.
She's been the studio head since Disney acquired Lucasfilm. Because the sequel trilogy there was no plan for. There was clearly no concrete plan going into the sequel trilogy for what those movies were going to be. Like it was
Okay.
very and Bob Iger talks about it in his book. Very clearly they needed to prove to the Disney board that they did not waste $4 billion in vain, so they rushed production on episode 7, didn't think about it until, oh, we gotta do more of these now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very clearly a problem. They shouldn't have done that. And now they've kind of overcorrected to the point where they are kind of paralyzed by the fear of fucking up again.
Oh.
Where it's like that's why Solo ended up the way it did, and we'll talk about Solo eventually, but Solo ends up the way it does because Lawrence Kasdan writes the original script. Lawrence Kasdan, who did Empire Strikes Back and a bunch of other movies, but in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back is his real claim to fame. He writes the script, they bring on Lord and Miller. Lord and Miller are very improvisational directors and very comedic. That doesn't gel with what Lawrence Kasdan does. So in an effort to
Mm-hmm.
not alienate Lawrence Kasdan, it creates this whole rift between Lord and Miller and Lucasfilm, which
Hmm.
eventually ends up with them getting fired, Ron Howard being brought on to finish the movie, and the movie being shot almost entirely from the ground up.
Oh.
So that's why the movie cost like $500 million.
Oh.
So it like that's where they are now. It's this thing we have to get it perfect. We have to get it perfect. It's like there are very few, if any, perfect movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Star Wars, even Empire Strikes Back are not perfect movies.
No.
Like they're great, but there are still some oddities in there and some weird moments. Like the point, like the thing that always jumps to mind, like in The Godfather. You've seen The Godfather, right?
Mm, I think so.
Like there, that is a near perfect movie. If it came out today, people would nitpick it for being too long. People would nitpick it for being too methodical and being too like you linger a lot in that movie, which is great because it builds tension and it builds the atmosphere. But if it came out now, people would nitpick it for that. And then there's that scene where they beat the fuck out of the guy, and it's like 70s like action choreography. So like none of the punches look like they're landing, and it's like I was watching the movie and I'm like, if this came out now, people would shit on that to no end because
Mm-hmm.
it just looks a little stilted and weird, and it's like, but it doesn't take you out of the movie.
Hmm.
But now that it's different. It's like in 19 what was it 1970 was when the original came out. Like that was okay. And like look at Empire Strikes Back. Like that
Mm-hmm.
sequence in the middle of the fight between Luke and Vader, where they go down into the sub level and Vader's just like using the Force to throw like wall air conditioning units at Luke.
Mm-hmm.
It looks ridiculous because it's so slow. It looks like there's no weight to the objects being. It looks like they're throwing boxes at him because it looks like there's no weight to them, and they're just bouncing off his body. Like the whole thing is just kind of a little ridiculous. Like, but you don't let small things like that ruin the overall enjoyment of the movies. And if you're trying to make a movie with the intent that you don't want YouTubers to nitpick the fuck out of it, don't bother trying to make a movie because if someone wants to complain, they'll find something to complain about. And that's what I think this whole thing is. I think that is Messiah on that date. I think that is they just haven't announced it as Messiah because they want to be able to move it without pissing people off.
Okay.
They put it on that date. They didn't want like if it moves back into 2027, they don't want to piss anyone off. Um,
Okay.
and it's just because it's like you don't put the other movies that Villeneuve is doing in that slot because Rendezvous at Rama is more of an event movie. His nuclear war speculative fiction is not an event movie, and arguably Cleopatra is, but it depends on what scale he goes with because it could be a $200 million movie, it could be a $30 million movie.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Um, but I don't know. I just don't think Messiah is gonna rub a lot of people the right way, and that's the big thing too.
Why?
It's not like. Do you want me to spoil it for you, or do you want to wait until the movie comes out?
I don't want a spoiler.
Well, it's like it takes place a few years after where Dune leaves off. Um,
Okay.
Whereas like Dune leaves off with Paul going off on his holy war, um, as he has now been accepted by the Fremen as the Lisan al Gaib. He goes off on his holy war. This is now years after the holy war has ended. I think it's like 8 years later. So the holy war is done. There's bloodshed all over the galaxy. Everything is fucked up. Um, and Paul is the emperor of the known universe. And
Okay.
people are coming for him because he's emperor of the known universe, and he feels bad about the fact that he's the emperor of the known universe and having done it the way he did, and then the atrocities carried out in his name.
Okay.
So, in this movie, there's no big war sequence. There's no big there isn't that big siege on the emperor's base thing. There's no big fight between Paul and someone else. Like the end of the movie, the end of the book when I read it, very reminiscent more of Oedipus than like Lord of the Rings or something. Um, and I think, and very reminiscent of the end of Revenge of the Sith in one very specific way that I'm not going to spoil for you, but because George Lucas has had like four ideas and three of them came from Dune. Um, but yeah, it's not a bombastic event in the way Dune's ending is. It's more like Dune Part One than Dune Part Two.
Okay.
Um, But the other thing was that you said we should wait to talk about this till the show. The Acolyte.
Yeah.
Now, Josie does not have Disney Plus currently,
Not currently.
and I think she's too far away to use my Disney Plus without it getting flagged as sharing a password. Otherwise, you could use mine. But
Aw.
well, you use my everything else, so
I have Hulu. I could share Hulu.
I have Hulu too. I have the Disney bundle.
I know. Oh. How is the Disney bundle's like an extra $2, right?
I think so.
I should just do it.
Don't even get the full bundle. I have the full bundle because I use ESPN.
I
Like,
don't.
if you can get just Disney Plus and Hulu bundled together.
Okay.
Like, I have the
Maybe
full bundle.
that's what I'll do.
Yeah, because like during hockey season, I use like they have all the hockey games on there, so I watch hockey through that.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't, but
No.
which is weird considering you're from New England. I thought that was like,
I like hockey, but I like to watch it in person.
oh, okay. Um,
I can't with the I can't really watch it on the TV as much.
oh,
It doesn't keep my attention.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll watch hockey. I'll watch football. Can't really watch basketball unless Albany's play. I'll watch Albany if they're in the NCAA tournament, but that's about it. But anyway, the Acolyte. Um, so this show. Do you know anything about the show?
No.
Okay, so this show is set about 100 years before Phantom Menace,
Okay.
and it has. It's about the. I'm gonna try to not spoil it for you because I know you're gonna watch it.
Should we wait until we cover it?
Actually, you know what? How about this? Um, if you add on Disney Plus and then you want to watch it, and then we can do the whole thing when the show ends. Because you can catch
Okay.
up pretty quickly because it's only 5 episodes in right now.
Okay.
So, and
I
it's
will
5 of 8. So in a few weeks we can do all of it and we'll talk about it all at once.
I will work on that.
There we go. That's a better way to do that. And then we'll just go right into Rogue One.
Yeah.
Um, so you weren't on the Beware of spoilers for Rogue One. I think that was just me and Peter. So I don't think you ever gave your thoughts on this movie.
I feel like this is something I did talk about. We've talked about this.
Oh no, I know we've talked about it, but did we do it on
No,
content?
but we've talked about it like
Oh, okay.
in like through
Various
Zoom or
podcasts.
something like that.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. I've talked about this before. Um, this is actually one of the only ones from these new movies that I actually like.
Yeah, I think for me, this is either the best or the second best of the Disney era movies.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I'm
know our
probably
opinions differ very much on when we get to The Last Jedi. I know our opinions will differ wildly, but
mhm.
um, like I do really enjoy that one. This is either the best or the second best of
Okay.
that. of the Disney era. Um,
Sure.
I would say arguably of anything they've done, excluding books, because I really liked that new book I just read, Temptation of the Force. Really fucking good.
Hmm.
Um, really, really great Jedi on Jedi sex scene.
Okay.
Yeah, fucking hot.
Okay.
Um, I made that same joke 2 days ago when I recorded the episode. Um, but yeah, they what's it called? This is I think the strongest movie. That said, I watched this movie again this week.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the second act I don't remember.
Oh, it goes pretty quickly.
Well, that's the thing is that it's like the end is so strong.
Yeah.
Like the end is so strong that like when she goes back to when they like every like actually really the only thing I really forget about is her going back to the prison where they're holding Galen. That's the only real
Okay.
forgettable part is like going back there because it's like I don't think that really matters to the rest of the movie because like you can't forget Forrest Whitaker because Forrest Whitaker just gives a performance in this movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
acting is all about choices, and he made choices. Like
Mm-hmm.
his cadence is fantastic. Like it's a running joke with me and Peter. He's like, you came to kill me like that. Like it's so over the top the way he
It
plays.
is over the
It's
top.
but it's fantastic, and I think that like when he came back in Andor, they dialed it back in a really good way, where he still
Mm-hmm.
had that, but it wasn't quite as ridiculous, where you could take him seriously. Um, like I guess like I like that everyone has something to do in the third act. I think that the third act of this movie there's a fucking lizard over there. Sorry, I got a lizard just right out of the grass onto the sidewalk. Um,
So,
we don't have lizards here. I don't live in fucking Florida. Um,
you have lizards.
Not really.
Obviously,
Well,
you just
yeah.
saw one.
Well, it could have escaped from someone's house.
What kind of lizard is it?
I didn't get that. I didn't go and hunt it down. It looked like the lizard I
Well,
had as a
why
pet.
not?
It looked like the lizard I had as a pet. When I was like in second grade.
Oh,
I don't know what kind of
what
lizard
kind
it
of
was.
lizard?
I don't know. We got it at the
What
library.
did you have in the second grade?
I don't know.
You
We got
got
it at
it
the.
in the library?
Yeah, they had a pet. They had like a lizard event where they taught you about lizards. They did. I don't know what lizard was, what type it was, but I got the
Oh
lizard.
my
I
goodness.
named the lizard Bayleaf after the Pokemon.
That's cute. We had
Um,
a gecko named Trico growing
there you
up.
go. um, yeah, so I had the anyway. I do really enjoy this movie a lot. I think that it's a shame that they killed off what's his name, Ben Mendelsohn, because he's just great
Mm-hmm.
as Krennic. Krennic is coming back in Andor season 2, so we have that to look forward to.
I think this movie has rewatchability, which for me is important.
Hmm.
Like so many of the Disney era movies do not. Um, and I liked this one. Like, there's the scene where, um, uh, freaking Vader
What?
goes around
Oh yeah.
slicing everybody up, and that's pretty awesome. That one's super cool.
See,
Um,
did I
I
tell
could
you
just
that
watch that all day.
that scene is the reason why I thought that Luke at the end of Mandalorian season 2 was not actually Luke,
Oh.
because that hallway scene, we had a hallway scene with Vader, and then we had a hallway scene with Maul
Mm-hmm.
in Clone Wars that were
I
very
think we just
similar.
like the hallway scenes.
And then they did the hallway scene with Luke, and I'm like, well, the last two times they did that, it was a bad guy. It feels weird to do that with a hero.
Yeah,
So I was like, maybe that's the clone of Luke from Heir to the Empire. But I guess
that's true.
I don't know if they're gonna do that.
Hmm.
But either way, I don't think Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka would have sussed that out, hanging out with him. In Book of Boba Fett. God, that show was so fucking awful. Anyway, back to Rogue One. Um, yeah, I like the whole like the fact they all go on that suicide mission and they're ready to go, and then the thing too is that it's like them not giving the romance to Cassian and Jin is such a
Hmm.
great decision where it's like that it, at no point during you could tell there's like a moment or two where it's like they're I mean it just because the two of them are like two of the most attractive people on the planet who are in close
Hmm.
quarters with each other, but like you don't get a romantic thing between the two of them at any point.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
like the only thing my one complaint about the movie is I think Jin turns a little too fast.
Okay.
Because she has the line where she's talking about where it's like I think it's Cassian says to her like, "Do you really want to live under the Imperial flag?" And she goes, "It's not a problem if you don't look up."
Yeah.
Like, and then I think it's like 20 minutes later, she's leading the rebellion. Like
Right.
that character turn feels like it comes a little too fast for me, especially considering she works with um, what's his name, Saw Gerrera.
I can see that.
Like, I would have rather they cut that from her entirely. The I don't want to be with the rebellion.
Hmm.
Like, I would have rather it be she's like Saw, where it's like Saw is an extremist.
Hmm.
Like he's a far extremist in the rebellion, where it's like they're like,
Hmm.
yeah, we have the rebellion, and then there's that Saw motherfucker way over there who's gonna go and fuck everything up. Like
Hmm.
I feel like I would have rather they have her be more like him, and then it's like we gotta rein you in a little bit,
Hmm.
than have it be like, oh well, I was raised by this guy for most of my life, and now I want nothing to do with the rebellion, but with some gentle coaxing, you can get me to be full on willing to kill myself for this.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Um, so my gripe is that there were I feel like they missed an opportunity for the industry as well with not having any Bothans, because Bothans were supposed to have died for
Nope,
that,
nope,
right?
nope.
What?
Many Bothans died in the quest to get the second Death Star plans. That's a quote from Return of the
Mm,
Jedi that Mon Mothma says on
mm,
Sullust.
mm,
That's not in. That's not how they got the Death Star plans. Um,
hmm.
do you like this explanation for the exhaust port better or worse than the old canon explanation?
Say that again?
So, like the old canon explanation for the exhaust port before Disney acquired and tossed the old EU was
Mm-hmm.
the Empire did it on purpose because they knew you needed to be an incredibly skilled pilot to do that, and only Vader would be able to do that. The rationale for that was if the station should somehow ever fall into rebellion hands, they needed a way to blow it up. The new
Mm,
explanation is Oppenheimer felt bad about his creation, so he created a way to destroy it.
mm. Yeah, I think I like the original better.
My only issue is it's like when we're on the Death Star and we see just how many troops there are on the Death Star at any given moment. How the fuck were you ever expecting anyone to take it over?
Yeah,
Like, like come on. Like it's not like it's not like it's a
but if it happened.
yeah. I mean, come on. Like it's like one of those things where it's like, how would they do that?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
don't know.
I
That's a
think
co- that's that's a good point though.
I do like the way that they did it here, though. I do like because it's like even if it is one of those things where it's like here's the way to blow it up in the event it falls into the wrong hands, it makes the Empire feel dumber.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like here's something they would have overlooked because it's not something important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also kind of the theme of Andor, where it's like this idea that like you have this giant bureaucracy who's running the entire galaxy, like things are going to get overlooked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how the rebellion is able to flourish. And then it's also the theme of what's going on in the Mandalorian timeline, where it's this idea of how the what's it called, how the Empire is, able to return as the First Order.
Okay.
Um, that was the interesting thing in like the Mandalorian season 3, like coming right after Andor, was that it's like, oh, they're very clearly just setting up a parallel between the First Order and the Rebel Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's I really enjoy this movie. Let's go to the ranking and see where we would put this.
Okay.
Let's see. So let's start. We'll do it this way. We'll start with the movie rankings, and then we'll go from there. So far we have 8 movies on the movie ranking. Number 8, we have the Clone Wars movie. Um, Number 7, we have the Phantom Menace. Number 6, we have the Force Awakens. Number 5, we have Attack of the Clones. Number 4, we have Return of the Jedi. Number 3, we have Revenge of the Sith. Number 2, we have A New Hope. Number 1, we have Empire Strikes Back. I'll start the bidding at the new number 3, putting it above Revenge of the Sith, below A New Hope.
I I am um oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I agree. I'm with you. I have no objections. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so now we gotta put it in the full ranking. So we're not gonna read the full ranking out. Let's just go to where we are. So between Revenge of the
Oh my
Sith and A
goodness,
New
thank
Hope,
goodness.
yeah, we're at 27 now. So,
Yeah, it's too
uh,
many.
Revenge of the Sith. Oh, okay, that's easy. So this is the new number 3 there too, because at the top of the list, um, our top 5 right now are Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back,
Mm-hmm.
and then way at the bottom is Thrawn Alliances. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I think one of the things as we before you we'll wrap up on this note
Okay.
because Zoom is playing me off.
Okay.
We have 8 minutes. Um, but the thing what we'll go out on is if you're gonna watch the Acolyte.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you some background information from the High Republic because you haven't read any of the High Republic books, have you?
Uh, I don't know.
They
Let me
started
look.
coming out in like 2021.
I may have. Gotta look it
Like,
up. Let me look.
okay. Um, but like for people out there who may be on the fence about it, because a lot of people have been griping about this thing breaking canon and being like, you know, oh, I don't like it because it changes the established canon. Which, first of all, let's be real, Star Wars has been.
I have.
Oh,
I've
okay,
done only a couple though,
okay.
like a handful.
The most recent book, Temptation of the Force, is. Let me give you. I'll give you a quick summary. So it's like, I don't know how far you've gotten. Have you gotten up to the Stormwall yet?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I've done just a handful, like, and
Uh,
they're probably on the older side too.
okay. So the Nihil, who are the overarching bad guys for this era, they're anarchists from the Outer Rim who are. They don't want the Republic to integrate the Outer Rim into the Republic because they want to have their free reign to do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what they've set up is they set up this thing called the Storm Wall, and what the Storm Wall is it is a series of gravity wells
Mm-hmm.
around certain sectors of the galaxy where if you are on the hyperspace routes, so if you're in hyperspace and you hit the storm wall, you come out of hyperspace. And the thing they set up is right where you come out of hyperspace, there's something physically there that when you come out, you just smash right into it and are destroyed.
Hmm.
So they've effectively cut off entire sectors of the galaxy from Republic control with this storm wall. Um, and in the storm wall was Naboo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was where this book kind of takes place. Some of the Jedi have figured out how to break the code to get out of the storm wall. And that's like Avar Chris and Elzar Mann and all of them. They've now reunited. Um, the two of them have a deep romantic relationship between the two of them, Elzar Mann and Avar Chris. Um, they're the two who fuck. And that's kind of the important thing to take from that book, which sounds weird. But at this point in the High Republic, the Jedi are not the same as they are in the prequels. Like, I think one of the things that I want you to do when you watch this is take into consideration the fact that I think this show that transitions from the High Republic into the Fall of the Republic era, which is the prequels, is designed to set up what creates the orthodoxy of the Jedi. Like the more
Okay.
strict and orthodox interpretation of the Jedi teachings that is what we have in the prequels.
Okay.
Um, because that's
And that's
what
why.
this
And
is.
like this is the setup for
This
it.
is what causes that. What causes the Jedi to be like, look, we definitely shouldn't train this kid because he's too old. We only need very young children that we can bring in properly. No
Mm-hmm.
attachments at all. You cannot go back and save your mother from being enslaved. You have to do, you cannot have any attachments to anyone. Um, like all of that stuff comes into play in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and that's kind of where it is. And the other thing is, when you get to episode 3 and you see what they do with the Night Sisters, don't get too mad. I'm not going to spoil what it is for you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about it when
I
we
already
talk about.
heard about it.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to tell you my theory about it since you know what it
No,
is? Okay. Because
I'd
they don't
like to
say it.
keep it for the episode that we do on it.
Okay, because they don't say it in the show, but I do have a theory about what the
You
point
should
of that
save it
is.
for the episode.
I'm not gonna say what it is. It's called teasing for the next episode, so people come back and listen to it when we do the Acolyte episode. Um, I
Oh my
do think,
goodness,
I
so
think,
cranky.
I think what it is it's a, it's a setup for something we saw in both the prequels and the sequels, and trying to tie them together in an interesting way. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to see how if that's the case when the show wraps up. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not entirely like it's just a theory I have, but well, if I'm wrong, I'll say it anyway because I already said it on Beware of Spoilers, and I don't care if I make an ass of myself. I made an ass of myself with my theory about Inside Out 2, having seen the movie and not sitting through for the post credit. Um, did you see Inside Out 2 yet?
No, but I
It's
want
really,
to.
it's
I
really good
probably won't. I probably will wait until it's like I can watch it at home.
on Disney Plus. It's
Yeah.
it's really good. Like at one point, we'll go out on this. At one point, Joy goes, because it's basically the same plot as the first one, where a new emotion's kind of taking front and center, so the other emotions get shunted off, and they got to
Mm-hmm.
come back. So Joy is one of the ones who gets shunted off, and she's all upset, and she's like, I guess nothing can beat anxiety, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Have you tried Xanax? Like, Xanax might help you in this case. Like, um, but yeah, it's a really great illustration of anxiety. I think the way they handle it's very well done,
Mm-hmm.
and the way they handle like the way you cope with it.
I've seen a lot of posts and stuff about people talking about how it was well done.
Yeah, like the way that they show like dealing with anxiety, like how to cope with it, very well done. I think. Um, but yeah,
Okay,
I would definitely when it goes to Disney Plus, I would definitely recommend watching it.
I will do.
Um, so yeah, oh, if you have Apple TV Plus, one last thing, and then we'll go out on this. Okay, if you ever do get Apple TV Plus, there's a movie that came out this week called Fancy Dance.
Okay.
100% worth watching. I saw it last year at the Hamptons Film Festival. It is fantastic.
Do you
Um,
have it?
have Apple TV Plus?
Yeah.
I do. I might
Is
be
it
able to get.
shareable?
It might be. I
And
gotta
I'll
look into
watch
that.
it?
It might be. I'll look into that.
Okay.
The next thing we're going to talk about on this show, what do you want? Do you have a book you want to talk about, or a show you want to
Oh,
talk about,
shoot.
or
What's next?
well, what do you? I mean, I always pick. Why don't you pick?
We I thought we were doing it in an order.
We were, but I lost track of where we were.
Oh, shit. Um, okay, okay. Well, this would deserve maybe just let me see here. I want to do books,
Okay.
and I was thinking a series.
Okay.
So, stand by. Let me do a little search and find what the heck they're called.
Okay. And then I will get it through Libby, and I will listen to it while I'm at work. Um,
Okay, I'll pick a
if
smaller one.
if I have, well, I work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. If it's like I can get through Heir of the Empire in a week.
Okay.
I think that's one of the longer ones.
Oh, you know what? This is one of your newer ones. Have we done the Ahsoka book?
We have not. That's actually a good one. Let's do the Ahsoka book because we can
Okay.
talk about that and how it possibly retconned or how they ripped it off entirely for Tales of the Jedi.
Um, or would you like to do something new? Like new to you?
Up to you.
Um, Ooh, not that. What's the? We should do the. Have we done Mall Lockdown?
No, we could do that one.
I want to do that one.
Okay, Mall Lockdown's our next book. We'll do that. But until our next episode, because they give me a hard time at what's it called on Zoom. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye.
Where's that button? There it is.